So Rockstar has released quite a few vehicles these past 10 years of Grand Theft Auto Online. And a lot of vehicles, everybody uses them quite a lot. And there's also some vehicles that people just ignored. And then there's some vehicles that were actually popular for quite a while. And then after an update or two, or a few years later, people just stopped using them. And that's what today's video is going to be about. Forgotten vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Let's just go ahead and jump right into the video. So first, I want to talk about the Entity XF. Entity XF actually came out with the game at launch. When I used to play story mode before I played online, this was like my favorite car to drive. It's about $700,000. It's actually cheap to today's standards, but back then you actually had to grind in GTA Online to get this vehicle. And yeah, this vehicle to me, it's still a great looking vehicle. It's even better than the newer entities like the Entity XXR and the other entity that came out recently. I think this is still the best looking entity. And yeah, it's based off of Koenigsegg. But yeah, people just stopped using the Entity XF because it's outclassed. There's not a lot of customizations compared to a lot of the newer vehicles. So that's why the Entity XF just kind of fell off, I guess. Up next on the list is actually quite surprising because this was popular for a good minute. For about 3 years, I want to say, and that would be the Zentorno. Now, the Zentorno, great looking car. Back in the PS3 and Xbox 360 days of GTA Online, if you own this car, then you were definitely considered rich. This car was actually pretty fun to use in PvP combat because you can't be shot out the window from the back because there's no back windows in the Zentorno, so you can just chuck a sticky bomb or you can just shoot out the window. And again, the Zentorno, same reason for the Entity XF. It basically stopped being used by a lot of players because it just wasn't fast enough for races. It's not the fastest car in today's standards. It's still a great looking car, and it's only $700,000. And honestly, this is like one of the first cars I actually bought in Grand Theft Auto Online. Once I got enough money, I'm like, yep, I'm buying Zentorno, and I bought it, and I've had it ever since. It was a great car in its time, but due to like modern standards, especially with the HSW upgrades on next-gen consoles, the Zentorno really can't compete in today's environment in GTA Online. Up next on the list would have to be the Rocket Voltic. Now, the Rocket Voltic has a rocket-powered engine in the back. It has a little stunt boost or whatever you want to call it. You get a rocket boost every time you press down on R3 or the right toggle, whatever you want to call it, on the Xbox controller. There's not much really to this car. It doesn't have any armor. It doesn't have any explosive resistance. One RPG can blow this vehicle up, but it's not really meant for like a PvP vehicle. This is a vehicle to have fun with, do stunts with. And it was popular for the update it came out in. And then people just stopped using it. I really don't blame them. There's no real reason to use it. It's no different than the regular Voltic, other than it has a rocket powered engine. There's no new upgrades to it or anything. But it's still a fun vehicle to use. It was quite expensive when it first came out. So that's another reason why people stopped using this vehicle, because the price just really wasn't worth it unless you really wanted to have stunts with it. But yeah, moving on to the next vehicle on this list. Now moving on to the Adder. Now the Adder is like $1 million. It was the only Bugatti that was in the game at the time. The Adder came out with the launch of Grand Theft Auto 5, and it's not that fast. It wasn't even that fast when it first came out in comparison to the other vehicles. It wasn't even considered the fastest vehicle when it first came out, and it was quickly outclassed by the Zentorno. It was popular in the sense that at the time it was the most expensive vehicle, that being $1 million. Pretty funny considering nowadays a Subaru from the 1990s is almost $2 million. And here we are paying $1 million just for a Bugatti. But other than that, the Adder not only was just overpriced, it wasn't that fast, not a lot of cosmetic upgrades, and like I said, it got outclassed by the Zentorno about a year or so later, so people just stopped really caring for the Adder. But I still like it. I still drive mine around sometimes. I still recommend buying it if you want to have like a collection of supercars. But yeah, the Adder just pretty much fell off because it just got outclassed way too fast. Moving on to the Annihilator. Now, the Annihilator was in Grand Theft Auto 4, and then it came out in, I believe it was 2014 in GTA Online. And it just really wasn't that viable. It didn't have any armor on it, so one RPG would just blow it up. It had no missiles to it, and the machine guns really aren't that great unless you really know what you're doing. But the machine guns aren't really that great on the Annihilator. The machine guns on the Annihilator in GTA 4 are actually a lot more powerful, and they just kind of doled it down in GTA Online. People just don't really use this helicopter. People also don't buy it because it spawns at the airport anyways, so why spend over $1 million or however much it costs? I don't really know the price, but why spend so much money on a helicopter when it spawns at the airport anyways? So it pretty much just fell off because it just wasn't as viable as a Buzzard, and it just really wasn't worth the price. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next vehicle. Now, the Armored Kuruma, this kind of sucks to put it on this list just because how much nostalgia the Grand Theft Auto Online community as a whole holds for this vehicle. Now, the Armored Kuruma, it just has no armor, ironically enough. It has armor for, like, bullets, obviously, but what's going to happen when you drive by somebody and they use an RPG or an oppressor flies over you and just fires a missile at you and boom, you're just dead. The Armored Kuruma just really isn't that viable anymore. It's just so easy to counter. I only recommend buying the Armored Kuruma only for like missions or heist setups. It's just really not that viable. And also the Duke of Death, which actually has explosive resistance, and the Duke of Death actually has better armor than the Armored Kuruma. It's actually free for most players on Warstock. So if you have the choice between the Duke of Death or the Armored Kuruma, the Duke of Death is a more viable choice. Now moving on to the Osiris. The Osiris came out in the Ill-Gotten Games Part 1, and it was considered the fastest car at the time. It actually beat the Zentorno. And then an update later, Ill-Gotten Games Part 2, which came out 3 weeks after Ill-Gotten Games Part 1. It introduced the Progen T20, which quickly outclassed the Osiris. So like everybody who bought the Osiris just felt stupid because like why the hell did I go and do that when the Progen T20 is better than the Osiris every other way. Now moving on to the Stromberg. The Stromberg came out with a Doomsday Heist update, and it was considered probably one of the best counters to the Oppressor Mark II. It has quite a lot of armor and explosive resistance to the vehicle, and it can go underwater, but the one thing is that it had a limited amount of missiles, and when the Toreador came out with the Kyle Perico update, Toreador not only has infinite missiles, it also has the boost. So the boost makes it easier to dodge missiles from Oppressor, helicopters, planes, jets. The Toreador is pretty much a better version of the Stromberg, which made the Stromberg pretty much useless because you may as well as get a Toreador, considering the Toreador is the better version of the Stromberg. Now up next on the list would have to be the Hellfire. The Hellfire came out with the Casino DLC back in 2019, and everybody wanted this car. They wanted a Challenger or a Hellcat type vehicle. It's very customizable. There's a lot of customizations you can add to it. It didn't quickly get replaced. Actually stayed popular for quite a while. I noticed this when this car came out, even like a year or so after the car came out. It was considered one of the most popular muscle cars. But then recently with the Contract DLC and the Criminal Enterprise DLC, everybody just dropped their Hellfire in exchange for the Buffalo STX and the Giro ZLX, which is obviously the Hellcat Charger and the modern Camaro. Everybody's been begging for a Camaro since day one of the game, and the Buffalo STX is better in the sense it has more armor capabilities like the Amani Tech. So it pretty much made the Hellfire just unviable. Also, the Hellfire wasn't that great for races. For a long time, the best car to use in the muscle class races was the original Dominator, but the Hellfire was just popular in the sense that it was a Hellcat. And now we have like I said, we have the Giro ZLX and the Buffalo STX. So like I said, it has made the Hellfire irrelevant. You don't really see anybody driving this car around or using it in muscle car races anymore. Now, last on the list would have to be the Patriot Mil-Spec. Now, the Patriot Mil-Spec is a pretty good vehicle to use in PvP on its own because it has the Amani Tech, which you can add the missile lock-on jammer and the explosive resistance to it, and also you can't be shot out. But the problem is that yeah, it has the Amani Tech, and people were saying that this was going to replace the Night Shark because, you know, it's an armored vehicle that also has Imani Tech, so it's a double-edged sword. But the Night Shark just proved itself to be the better vehicle in the sense that it's faster and it can take more damage. Yeah, the Night Shark doesn't have Imani Tech. It can still take much more damage than the Patriot Mil-Spec. It was popular for, I think, a month or so, and then it quickly just got dropped for the Night Shark because people just realized the Night Shark is way more viable than the Patriot Mil-Spec. The Patriot Mil-Spec could still be used in certain situations, but overall, I think the Night Shark is just a better choice. If you guys did go on enjoy this video, like and a comment will be appreciated. Subscribe new to the channel, and let me know down in the comment section below, what do you think of my list? Do you think I missed a few vehicles? Think I might be wrong about a few vehicles? Let me know down in the comment section below. But yeah, with all that out of the way, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everybody.